Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a happy new year. Sorry about the little delay we've had in getting some videos up. We're going to do a few shorter format things in between times now. And this is the first one. So to try and explain where we're all at here at TKC Towers, I think it's really important that we let you know the hard work that's been getting put in by the team. So from a Second World War standpoint, we have almost completed Balkan Fury 2. It's now being proofed, at least so insofar as the mapping is concerned. That's now done. The counter-art is going to be going out later this coming week for a full-blown proofing job with the usual suspects involved, I've no doubt. So I'll probably get a lot of really rude emails for about 2 weeks after that saying you're useless, which obviously I am because we're running a bit late. At the same time, we've also redeveloped Madagascar. We're leaving the OB pretty much as it is, but we're including all the frequently answered questions. We're updating the rules to the latest and greatest. New charts, very pretty new folder, presentation system, a C-zone map, and maybe something else as an add-on, because we've done some more mapping, basically to the east of it. So if you really want the Japanese to invade Mauritius, please leave a wee message down below, or come find our email, info@tkc-games.com. And feel free to tell us you want it. If you want more mapping and you're willing to pay for it, we're obviously interested in seeing what we can do to help you all out. At the same time, we've had a number of internal meetings between myself and our head of research, Corey Manka. Corey's been out of commission. He's had a knee operation on one knee. The good news is he's feeling absolutely fantastic. The bad news is that middle of March, he's going to get his other knee done, which means he gets 2 weeks sat on his back with a machine with a great big wheel, just moving his leg backwards and forward. I'll let you all read into that what you will. Personally, I found the whole idea quite funny. He was not amused when I suggested we needed to build a big frame so he could put a monitor above his head and a keyboard there so he can actually type and do his job. He said Sarah probably like that, give her some peace and quiet. Anyway, Sarah being his wife, of course. So, bottom line is the research for Watchtower is essentially complete. There may be the odd little thing we need to tweak. That's always the case when you do really big games. I'm currently working flat out on Balkan Fury in Madagascar and very slowly on Watchtower, I hasten to add. That is involving really the conversion of everything that we do in spreadsheets into the Word files, which we then print up to give you the orders of battle. I've got 1,900 US Navy ships to look at, and that doesn't include auxiliaries, which is another file, but they can go straight into the spreadsheet. It's not that big a deal. All the land-based stuff, all the airborne stuff, all the aircraft, etc., all of that is already looked at. It's a case of cut and paste once we get the Navy sorted out. And I will be releasing that file again as a free download to those of you who own US Navy games or games in the TSWW series with US Navy ships in them, largely because, frankly, it seems like a nice thing to do. That is, of course, a draft and is maybe not quite 100%. And thanks to Ray Stakenis, who took a lot of time out, he's given me a fix file, which I haven't yet gone through, but it will be gone through as part of the Watchtower upgrade on these files I'm creating to try and get it such there aren't any major problems with the naval OBs. La Guerra remains in the drawer. Nothing much is going to happen with that for the time being, because we need Corey back fighting fit. So as soon as he's fit in about 2 months' time, 3 months' time, I'm going to phone him up and give him the good news that all he's doing is La Guerra, which is the Spanish Civil War, because I need that to release at the same time as Watchtower. And in the meantime, Geoff, who's sat here with me, and I have been doing some really cool stuff relating to the last Malvinas Between the Wars title. So we've got some OBs for that. We know how many counters we need. It'll be 2 counter sheets, so 560 counters. Be 2 or 3 maps in it. It's going to be a folder game, much the same as Madagascar OB. We've done the artwork for that in terms of the box. Mapping, we've started to kind of look at it, and we've got a few really cool ideas where we might put the first naval battle of the Falkland Islands into the box, which gives us a really cool link to what Geoff's been working on, which of course is the First World War. Geoff, where are we at with that?
Right, I have completed most of the research for the first four navies that took, well, the four of the most powerful navies that took part in that war. We have the Royal Navy, we have the Imperial German Navy, otherwise known as the High Seas Fleet. We have the American Navy, which joins us from late 1917 onwards. And then we have the French Navy, which is mostly in the Mediterranean, but does have a small presence in the Atlantic. Now, a lot of the work that's been done on that involves...
Geoff, is that French Navy the stuff that to me looks like just a bunch of windows punched through holes in metal? Right, okay.
Yeah. What's known as the floating hotels, according to various modern naval geeks. I do sometimes wonder if all those windows are there because they're in the Mediterranean, they want to ventilate everything. But it honestly looks like an old ship of the line with the gun ports.
Yeah, exactly. But I was wondering as well, though, if ladies of the night would maybe row out to the ships when they're at anchor. Nice way for the French to get some recreation.
But the thing is, they're French. They'd be open about that. They're just coming through the front door. There's no need to sneak on board.
I'm going to get us in so much trouble with these comments, but it had to be done. Right, so yeah, French Navy, you're working in them as well. So how far along are we in being able to start doing all the ship ratings? I know you and I had a wee chat about gunnery the other night.
I'd say pretty close. I had a bit of a scare when I realised I might not have done all the AA values up to 6 inches according to the table. But then, as we've talked about regarding AA, can you really imagine a 6-inch gun being utilised by any navy to try and hit a fast-moving aircraft? Maybe against Zeppelins. There may be something
possibly. I'm aware that the US Navy and the Royal Navy experimented with this towards the end of the Second World War and into the early 1950s. And even with early mechanical computing or digital computing, modern radars off the time, it just didn't work. You need a smaller cannon that's got a higher rate of fire just to put more metal in there. It's that simple. So I wouldn't worry from a ratings perspective about that. I don't think in World War I there'd be anything much that would have the elevation as a 6-inch gun, to be honest, to engage. Maybe at long range, but then again, if you're going to fire at long range against a Zeppelin you see in the horizon, you might as well use your 12-inch cannon on a dreadnought.
Yeah.
You might get lucky.
But yeah, I'll have a look at any like 5-inch gun at the absolute maximum, but I can't see anything. In addition to that, I finished off last week the Casemate, how many Casemates the German Navy had. I'll be having a look at the French. There will be some interesting stuff with the Russians. I don't know if it leads into the French, but the Russians had the occasional bow cannon. Literally, you have the prow of the ship, and you have a gun pointing straight out the front. It's not on the turret, it's not in the Casemates, it's pointing straight out.
That's going to be interesting. I need to speak with some people about how we might actually include that. The only time that would, I presume it's got no traverse at all.
Possibly, I'm not sure. I need to have a look. I've known this for a couple of months, just how to identify if a ship is French or Russian. Does it look weird? Does it have really thick, rounded spotting tops? Does it have a gun sticking out the prow? Does it have windows?
Let's have a quick look, see if we can see one of these things.
Right.
1912. Come on.
Let's see.
No, I mean, to be fair, Russian ships do look a bit different.
They have a very, how do I put this, very slab-like quality. You compare the battleship Tsarevich with their first pre-dreadnoughts, Gankers and all that. They all have this, I'd almost call them overweight cruisers in the way you've got the sort of funnel, very flat decks, and then sort of quite low in the water. I've always found that quite interesting with the Russians.
Yeah, they do. That said, an awful lot of their ships, as far as I can recall, are really designed for use in narrow waters.
Exactly. And it's their coastal warfare strategy.
Yeah, you know, it's not like the Royal Navy, which is a blue water fleet. The High Seas Fleet was designed to challenge it. And that, it's something we'll probably come on to that when we do the eagle versus the bear. Yeah, and obviously that's the Eastern Front of the TFWW series. The other thing that Geoff and I have been discussing to some level is how we're going to handle some of the fun and games of ground combat in World War One. Is obviously it's static for extended periods. However, you have to learn how to combine arms to win. And the German collapse, particularly at the high command level, appears to be in 1918, when the British and the French used their armour to punch holes, and fairly large numbers of very shocked German troops, particularly in rear areas, surrender for a couple of days. And that impact on the high command is why they start saying, well, Germany's lost the war, despite some pretty bullish predictions right before that, after the August offensives, when they did at least get moving forward for the first time, albeit at great expense, because the Germans just didn't have tanks. And they had very good infantry combined arms by that point and light artillery they could drag forward. But for extended periods, particularly once you get to this trench warfare thing, neither side's really got the ability to move artillery beyond the trench line until engineers create roads. Think about it. You don't have big tractors dragging cannon about, which you do in some armies in the Second World War. It's horse-drawn teams. You got a 15-ton gun. How do you get it through the mud? So there's a very strong likelihood that what we're going to do for a certain period of time in the game, that's yet to be fully defined, is to have the infantry separate from the artillery within the division, and the artillery may not advance after combat, but you have to advance your infantry. So the other side can counterattack to retake their front line hex. Now that, in effect, is a flip-flop, and not a lot will happen in terms of your front line trace for extended periods because of that, unless you're a bit unlucky or your opponent's a bit silly. But the flip side of that is we're going to give you experience points for essentially every guy you lose, for all the troops that you've lost. And as you learn, your coordination gets better, your ability to engineer your way through the quagmire gets better. And you will then be able to advance after combat as unified units. And that would get everybody to the point, possibly Passchendaele and just beyond, which leads to the August offensives. We'll look at CEV, because combat efficiency variable is obviously impacted by that. And we're also going to look, I think, at what impact weapons of mass destruction have, because let's face it, we all know poison gas was a thing in World War One. Now, we have some rules in the TSWW system for that. We're going to backdate some of it, and some of it we're going to obviously not permit because we don't really have, biological or nuclear weapons that early, but we do have poison gas. So Geoff and I are going to have a wee chat about that. I think we'll leave that for another occasion. So maybe in 4 or 5 videos time, Geoff and I will get to that. In the meantime, I think what we'll do is we'll bring this wee briefing and little update to a close. We're hoping to start OB creation in TFWW in the next month or two. We need to do some ship ratings. Geoff's just said, yeah, we're pretty close. He and I have already discussed gunnery. We're going to get back into that, I'm sure, before we actually put counters together. But we're not far away from being able to do that. So the games still provisionally are on target for release late this year, early next year. And obviously that will be subject to proofing and print availability. The same goes for Balkan Fury, Madagascar, Watchtower, etc. Yes, we can do all the work in-house, but we then have to give it to commercial printers. They will determine the release schedule to some extent, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about that. All we can do in-house is do our best, try and get it out close to the schedule. We're working really hard to do that. The team's right on it, and at that point, we're going to love you, leave you. Thank you very much for listening. If you liked the video, even if you don't, feel free to like or dislike us down below. Take a look at our website. The web link will be there as usual. Please follow us, and we'll see you very soon. Good evening. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.